How exciting is it to be here in time and space? I know it doesn't always feel that way, but how exciting to be here in this particular form, experiencing what it is only possible to experience in time and space, that which humans call birth, that which humans call pain, that which humans call pleasure, that which humans call death. And it's all two sides of the same coin. And that single coin is always held in the hands of the divine, always. And so every single hair on your head is known and loved and blessed the whole way through. And that's the miracle. To live in that reality, to live in that realization, to live in that connection, to know, even if you seem to be dwelling by yourself at the bottom of a cliff, living by yourself in a cave, isolated, cut off, separate for 2 years, you are loved the whole way through. Good morning, welcome, 1,000 welcomes to you all. And we are meditating today on the topic of full seeing. So we are dedicating ourselves to this realization that allows us to fully see the divine present in every single moment. And this invitation is given by teachers from all traditions. So we'll be connecting with some of those teachers and some of those traditions. I'll start off by sharing a teaching from the Buddha, which translates as the one who is awake. And this is a teaching, a realization that each of us is invited to live in our daily lives, to be alive, to be awake to that reality that is named in this teaching. If beings knew, as I know, the results of giving and sharing, they would not eat without having given, nor would the stain of selfishness overcome their minds. Even if it were their last bite, their last mouthful, they would not eat without having shared if there were someone to receive their gift. And you can just feel the beauty and the power of that. And that is from, if you want to look it up, Iti Vuttaka. And the Buddha also says, be delighted before, during, and after giving. So this is the giving that is just giving freely, giving fully, even if it is your last bite, even if it is your last mouthful. The Buddha also says, if we see clearly, if we see fully, we will give. It is only if we are not seeing clearly and not seeing fully that we could possibly keep ourselves from giving. As soon as we see clearly, giving is the most natural, spontaneous, joyful, glad, generous offering, the same way that the in-breath comes, the out-breath flows. And it's as spontaneous and natural as our being here, as our having awareness, as our smiling, as our shining. And so I will share with you a couple of teachings before moving on to a couple of scriptures. This is a story that crossed my path this week. It might have crossed your path as well because it was picked up by news channels all around the world. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. If you are enjoying this content, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps joy travel. Did anyone notice the story about Fiona the sheep? Did anyone come across that? Oh, it's my great pleasure to share with you the story of Fiona the sheep. So, Fiona the sheep was stranded by herself at the bottom of a cliff on a remote coast of Scotland for more than 2 years. And so I'll tell the story sort of chronologically. 2 years ago, a kayaker was kayaking past this remote seashore and saw this sheep there and was like, oh, didn't think a thing of it. And then recently kayaked past and saw the same sheep there, and by now had not been shorn in more than 2 years. There were 20 pounds of wool, and the wool was so thick it was like the sheep was wearing a mattress, and the mattress was like almost touching the ground in the back. And so the kayak was horrified and was like, oh, that's that same sheep. That sheep has been there by itself. And it turns out the sheep was living by itself in a cave for 2 years, stranded. And the farmer whose sheep this was knew about it, but couldn't get the sheep up the cliff. And so apparently the sheep had sort of fallen down the cliff, had been living by itself at the bottom of the cliff for 2 years. So the Scottish Society for the Prevention to Cruelty to Animals was consulted. They declined to intervene. The Coast Guard was consulted. They declined to intervene. And the farmer whose sheep this was like, I can't do this. I can't do this by myself. So a couple of other farmers, 5 of them to be exact, heard about this. And they were like, well, who is crazy enough to do this but us? And so the 5 of them working together, they created this system. They had to basically rappel down the side of a mountain with a feed sack, like this canvas sack, and they cut this little hole for Fiona's head, and they put Fiona in the sack, and then they winched Fiona up. It helps that one of them was also a rock climber, whom they described as a mountain goat. So they were concerned that Fiona would be stressed out by this. Fiona was so relaxed that Fiona munched grass on the way up the cliff. She was being winched up the cliff, munching grass the entire time. They were very gentle with her. She has been shorn. She's been relieved of her 20 pounds of extra weight. And then they're introducing her very, very gently and gradually to other sheep. And so just to focus on, there's so many different ways that we could meditate on this, but alone we can't do this. And the official channels, like the Coast Guard declined to respond, the Scottish SPCA declined to respond. It really is often up to us, up to ordinary humans saying, well, who do we know who might be crazy enough to do this together? And this is the venture that all of us are asked to live in daily life. Like, how can we be crazy enough to work together to move forward in the face of what seems impossible? And this is lived in daily life by each of us. And so that's an example that I came across this week. And I would also say, like, it relates very clearly to the stories, the teachings from Jesus, where he says that there really is no sheep that is ever lost. The divine always knows where that sheep is. And the process of moving forward always involves restoration, like restoring that connection. So Fiona is being restored to connection with other sheep. And the process takes a little while because Fiona has been isolated. A lot of the news stories described her as the loneliest sheep in the world. Beautiful Fiona. So that aspect of each of us that feels like the loneliest sheep in the world, that feels like it's been isolated for 2 years, that feels like it's been living in a cave by itself, that feels like it's been cut off from community and connection, that feels like it has not known love. That's the aspect of ourselves that we are embracing. And we are asking the divine within ourselves to help us reconnect to community, to help us move forward in the face of what humanly seems impossible. Another teaching, which was just zinging through me this morning, comes from Harriet Tubman. I might have mentioned I adore Harriet Tubman. She's from Maryland. You all probably know the story about she traveled by herself to freedom. And one of the things that she said was, as she went back again and again and again in impossible conditions, she said, I hold fast to you, God. I know you'll see me through. She never knew what the journey would entail. She went back first for her own family, and then she kept going back, which tells you she recognized that everyone was her family. And so for each of us, that we also are invited to do. When it seems like we are facing the impossible, I hold fast to you, Lord, by whatever name we call the divine. I hold fast to you. I know you'll see me through. And that always guides us on. It guides us on to freedom. It guides us on to live in joy. It guides us on to live the truth and the reality, to honor the connectedness that each of us has with one another and with the light that dwells within all beings. Jesus in Matthew says, if therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. And this also is what we are invited to do. He's inviting us to remember to focus on our spiritual ideal. So very clearly in the context of the Sermon on the Mount where this is shared, he's saying you have the opportunity and the invitation to be distracted by the world. That's completely clear. Each of us has that opportunity and invitation. He says, keep your eyes single and your whole body will be filled with light. So one of the remarkable gifts that the yogic teachings give us is the realization and the recognition that the spiritual eye is the single eye that Jesus is referring to in this particular teaching. The spiritual eye is what we connect with every time we meditate, at the beginning of a Sunday meditation, when we allow the energy to move from the base of the spine, up the length of the spine to the space between and above the eyebrows at the center of the forehead. That is the single eye. And that is the eye. When we are connected with that eye, our whole body is filled with light. When our whole body is filled with light, we have clarity. We are not distracted by the things of the world. So we're not distracted by the experiences of pain. Swami Premananda was naming those experiences of pain very honestly in his prayer. We're not distracted by them. We're aware that the one source of all light is victorious, even in the midst of human circumstances of pain. The divine is victorious here in this moment. The divine is victorious in every single moment. The divine is victorious in what humans call birth. The divine is victorious in what humans call death. The divine is victorious the whole way through. And this is what each of us is invited to realize always with our lives. And we're invited to realize and live that truth of kindness, that truth of wisdom, that truth of connectedness, that truth of understanding from moment to moment in our daily lives. So I will share with you another teaching I came across this week that moved me very much. So this is a teaching from a teacher from India, and it's a teacher whose teaching you might know in the form of a song. So raise your hand if you've ever heard Bobby McFerrin's Don't Worry, Be Happy. Yes? Okay, so pretty much universal. That teaching actually came from a teacher from India whose name was Meher Baba. And among the other teachings shared by Meher Baba was to practice selfless service, to live the energy of kindness, to live the teachings of truth as they have been named by all the teachers who have ever been here. And so he had a very universalist appreciation for all the teachings of truth, all the teachers of truth, and said for each human, the invitation is to live those teachings of truth, to self-transform, to purify the heart, as Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount, so that we see the divine everywhere. And the teachers of truth make it visible that this is actually possible. It's possible in human form to so purify the heart, to so purify the awareness, that it is palpable. It is more real than anything in time and space, that the divine is here. And the divine is everywhere. And the divine is now, and the divine always has been, and the divine always will be, and the divine is transcendent, and the divine is also right here in every cell of every body of each of us. So here's a story that Meher Baba shared, and it might make me cry. So this is what he said. He said, people talk about all kinds of miracles. And I'm editorializing, this is the most natural thing in the world. Where the divine is present, miracles are, which means every moment of human existence, miracles are. Swami Shankarananda's definition of a miracle is something the mind doesn't understand. Miracles are everywhere, because there's everywhere this reality of love that goes beyond what human understanding can possibly comprehend. And so Meher Baba said, people talk about miracles. He said, the human teacher never does a miracle. Only the divine does miracles. And he said, let me give you a couple of examples. A little while ago, there was a district that didn't have rain. And someone in my name asked for rain. And it rained. That wasn't me. That was the faith and the love of that person asking and opening to the faith and the love that's always here, that is present in every single moment. And that's what they call a miracle. He said the reality is that it's the faith and love that is present in every single moment within your own heart, within your own being. And then he said, let me give you another example. There was a father who didn't have any love for me in his heart, but arranged to chant and arranged to sing. And in the middle of the chanting, in the middle of the singing, his son died. And he kept chanting, and he kept singing, and he called out to my name, and his son lived. But that is not the real miracle. That is not a miracle. That was simply the faith and the love of that father. I did nothing. The divine does everything. And then he said, there was a beautiful young man who loved me very much, who was a pilot, whose family loved me very much. And this beautiful young man, before he went up into his plane, made a prayer and praised my name and my love, and asked my name and my love to protect him as he flew. And his plane went down. And he died with my name on his lips. And that is not the miracle. He is here in the divine. He is still here in the divine after he leaves the body. That is also not a miracle. He said the real miracle is simply the pure love that is in the hearts of each of us. And the real miracle is to wake up out of the illusion of separateness that seems to prevail in human life, and to live the reality of that connectedness. That is the real miracle. It's not about what humans call life. It's not about what humans call death. It's not about if there seems to be some phenomena in time and space. The real miracle is the faith and the love that is eternal, that is immutable, that is immortal, that takes birth in each of us, that is so brave and so joyful and so venturesome. How exciting is it to be here in time and space? I know it doesn't always feel that way, but how exciting to be here in this particular form, experiencing what it is only possible to experience in time and space, that which humans call birth, that which humans call pain, that which humans call pleasure, that which humans call death. And it's all two sides of the same coin. And that single coin is always held in the hands of the divine, always. And so every single hair on your head is known and loved and blessed the whole way through. And that's the miracle. To live in that reality, to live in that realization, to live in that connection, to know, even if you seem to be dwelling by yourself at the bottom of a cliff, living by yourself in a cave, isolated, cut off, separate for 2 years, you are loved the whole way through. You are loved beyond measure. And it's only in time and space that we are able to experience this illusion of separateness. And the miracle is waking up. The miracle is realizing, not for one moment have I been separate from all the love in the universe. If we are incredibly blessed, we come into contact with these teachings of truth. We come into contact with a teacher who is living the reality of these teachings of truth. We come into contact with a community that is embodying these teachings of truth. And what happens then is each of us is loved and supported as we realize in our daily lives the miracle of that reality of pure love, the absolute joy of giving, the complete unconditional love and generosity that is our true nature, that energy of bliss that is unquenchable and undimmable. The eternal flame of bliss is with us always. Bliss is not a feeling. Bliss is the reality of our being. Bliss is that which we are forever. And each of us is invited to live in that connectedness, live in that awareness, live in that realization. Swami Shankarananda, I'm going to share a couple of teachings, said that one of the ways this bliss is most directly accessible and available to all humans is through the practice of karma yoga. And so this connects again with what the Buddha has been saying, with what Jesus has been saying, with what the Bhagavad Gita has been saying that we've been meditating on today. He says, those who do not have joy have not understood the magic, charm, and beauty of karma yoga, or love in action. The joy does not reside in getting something for what we do. The joy resides in giving of ourselves. To the degree that you express love in action, you are enriched. To the degree that you refuse to put love in action, you are impoverished. The more you can be of service, the more you experience the divine. One of the teachings from the Bhagavad Gita is that it is possible to meet a teacher in human form who has realized the vastness, the allness, all the love in the universe. And so the description of this is, in the Bhagavad Gita, that you're able to see the human, you're able to see the person in front of you, but you're also able to see what the Bhagavad Gita names as this. Salutation before thee, salutation behind thee, salutation unto thee on all sides. O all, illimitable in power and immeasurable in valor, thou pervadest all, wherefore thou art all. So you're able to see at the same moment the immanent, the divine here in this moment, and you're able to see the divine completely transcendent, beyond time and space. And that is also a miracle. It is a miracle that Swami Shankarananda gave us, and it is a miracle that he passed on. So before he left the body, I'm inviting you to celebrate with me. It was November 14th, 2014, that he was, by grace, able to consecrate a successor and able to consecrate another Swami. And so what he made the decision to do was he made the decision to pass on all the light that he had given his life to accumulating. He made a decision to pass on all the love that he had dedicated his entire being to honing and refining. And that love is anchored in time and space, not only through his successor, and it's not possible to use anything other than that phrasing because it's not the human that is the successor. It is the divine that is the successor. So the successor, whom he consecrated as Swami Nityananda, of course, helps to anchor all that light and all that love. The community is absolutely vital for anchoring all of that light and all of that love. And so on Tuesday, if you like, I invite you to give thanks to Swami Shankarananda and to give thanks for the community. One of the messages that he gave when he announced that he had consecrated me as Swami Nityananda and asked me to serve as his successor, he asked the community to step forward. He asked the community to step forward in karma yoga, to be of service, to dedicate their lives to carrying these teachings forward. And I just want to say to you all, some of you were here at that time Some of you have arrived since that time. You are living the teachings of truth. You are living the light that is the miracle. You are living the unconditional love that is immutable and that is immortal. And every time any one of us, individually or collectively, meditates, practices karma yoga, connects with the luminous lamp of wisdom that dwells in our hearts, fills ourselves with that energy of pure devotion, allowing that energy to fill us to overflowing, what we are doing is making visible in time and space that there is nothing that we cannot accomplish when we work together. There is nothing that is impossible to hearts that are true. And there are so many hearts that are true here. That is the reality. That is the truth that Harriet Tubman lived when she said, "I hold fast to you, Lord. I know you'll see me through." That is the reality that, with a sense of humor, those 5 Scottish farmers lived when they were like, who's crazy enough to do this? Who's crazy enough to do this? I'm pretty sure I hear you all saying, yes! Thank God. And God bless us all.